the point of this is to speed you through that cycle, because it's basically all of these things that you might naturally pick up when working with another person for 6 to 12 months. And let's just say, hey, let's put it on the document so we can get it out of the way straight up front. When I was in the Air Force, I learned about a theory of team development called Tuckman's stages of group development. And there's 4 stages. You may have heard of them. It says that, when a team comes together, they always go through these 4 stages of the forming, storming, norming, and performing cycle. And so what that means is people come together, and when they first come together, they're in the forming phase. And it's kind of like the honeymoon phase, right? Where you don't really know each other that well. So everybody kind of assumes the best of intentions. You haven't had enough time to get on each other's nerves, and things are going well. And then after a little bit of time, you get into the storming phase. And that's when those, idiosyncrasies of how people work, the way you type your emails in all caps or with exclamation points, or certain phrases that you say, they just start to rub people the wrong way. There's friction there. And so people start to struggle, and maybe there's some outbursts where people don't want to work with one another. That's the storming phase. That goes on long enough. You get to the norming phase, where maybe that friction starts to rub down, and you learn how to work around those idiosyncrasies, or you mention, hey, maybe you shouldn't have all caps in your emails. It seems like you're yelling at me, those kinds of things. And so you develop a set of team norms where you say, this is how we are going to work together. And that's how you unlock the performing phase, where you say, okay, now we know what we're doing. We don't have to deal with the individual personality conflicts, and we can just go get stuff done. And that's where everybody wants to be. The challenge is that this can take a long time to get through, especially if you're in a growing team. When I was at SpaceX, we grew our learning and development team from 3 to 9 in about 18 months. And, in nominal terms of numbers, that's not a lot, but we tripled the size of the team, right, in 18 months. And the thing about these stages of development is every time a new team member comes in, you basically start the process over, because it changes how all the groups interact, right? And so every month or two, we were going back to the forming phase, and that meant we'd get into the storming phase, and then we'd be back to the forming phase, and then we'd get into the storming phase, and we were really having trouble getting through that into the norming and performing phases. And so I went out and I was like, well, this isn't working, right? We can't just sit here always, disgruntled and not knowing how to work with one another. We need a faster way to get through this. And I didn't find this when I was at SpaceX. It wasn't until I went to another company that was growing even faster. The whole company just like exploded massively in population while I was there, hiring thousands of people, when they started off with hundreds of people when I first started. And I came across this concept of a user manual for me. And it's really simple. It's exactly what you would think it is, where it's just a series of questions that help you tell other people, this is the best way to work with me, right? And there's no gold standard of what the questions are for a user manual for me. If you go online and look it up, there's many of them out there that you can find. I'll put a link in the show notes of something that you can download that I put together. But it's questions like, this is the best, I prefer to be communicated to in this way. I like to receive feedback this way. If you want to convince me of something, this is the best thing to do. I think that's actually my favorite one. I spent a lot of time thinking about, what is the best way to convince me of something. And I finally came down to steel man the argument against you, right? So it's, don't tell me all the reasons you're right. Tell me the most likely reason that you are wrong. And then why, despite that, you are still actually right. That's how you convince me of something. But that's, kind of not intuitive, and people might not normally go there. And so here's how you can use it. So it's a simple document. It can be 5 questions. It can be 25 questions. It can kind of be as much as you want. I think the one I tend to use has about 15 questions on it. And so for managers, the way you can use this, the point of this is to speed you through that cycle, because it's basically all of these things that you might naturally pick up when working with another person for 6 to 12 months. And let's just say, hey, let's put it on a document so we can get it out of the way straight up front. And so if you're a manager, you take this document and you fill it out yourself. And then you give it to your team and say, hey, read this, tell me what you think, see if this jives with how I think I work. And then you can have all the members of your team fill it out. And it can be this great kind of like off-site activity, like you might do with a personality test, right? Except this isn't copyrighted, so you don't have to pay people a bunch of money for licenses for it. And so everybody fills it out. You can all talk about it, and it can really advance a team through that, past the storming and norming phases really quickly into that performing phase. And the best thing is that once you do it as a team and fill it out, you put it all in one place. And so every time you hire a new person on the team, the first thing you say is, hey, go read all these and then fill one out for yourself. And so it's a really simple way for new team members when they join the team to get up to speed really quickly. I've seen this be extremely effective in organizations, so effective that, like I said, in the last company I worked at, I found this, I kind of talked about it, I showed it to a few different leaders and held maybe one workshop using it. And then honestly, I got sidetracked. I got pulled into a bunch of other projects, kind of forgotten about it. Fast forward 12 months and find out that kind of like the whole software side of the organization, this had become like a key part of their whole team. And all of them, every new person was filling it out. All the managers and directors were using it in their teams. And it seemed all of a sudden like it was getting sent back to me. It's like, hey, there's this cool thing they're doing over in software. I was like, oh, wow. I gave that to them. That's so amazing. I'm so excited that they're using it. And so it can be really, really effective. So if you are a manager of whether you're, coming into a new team or you're hiring people a lot, or if you just find that your team is struggling with trust issues, communication issues, I highly recommend this is a tool to help you get past it. And that's actually how we use it in the Leadership Launchpad, in the program that we teach, where the first lessons are about how to build trust on a team, because I think for a manager, that's the first thing you need to be able to do. And with all of our workshops, we teach a couple techniques. And so the user manual for me is one of the techniques that we use for building trust, because when you understand what trust is, a big part of trusting someone is believing that they care about you. And the best way to show someone that you care about them is to learn about them and know about them. And so by doing this, you are showing your team that you care about them. And it's an opportunity for the individual team members to show each other that they care about each other by, learning all of this information, especially if you can find a way to kind of build it in to the normal team processes. If you really, if just like with anything else, just like with any personality test, if you have everybody fill it out, you all read through it once, yay, and then you move on, that's not going to matter. That's not going to make a difference. In fact, it might seem like you're wasting your team's time. So the key thing is to make sure you actually use these documents. So it can be something that you use it in an offsite. You maybe bring it up every now and then at a team lunch. When new members are hired, you bring it in. You use that as part of your onboarding process. And then maybe it's something that you just pull up every now and then before a one-on-one. If you're getting ready for a difficult conversation, you look through it and think through, what's the best way for me to do this? Because that adaptation is really how you build strong bonds and how you become a strong leader, is making sure you are showing up for your team members the way they need you to show up for them. So this is a really successful way for you to become a better manager and for your team to be a higher performing team. I hope you found this technique helpful. If you've used anything like this, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out, matt@bettereverydaystudios.com, and I will see you next time on the Leadership Launchpad. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you are looking for help turning your organization's great engineers into great managers, me and my team at Better Everyday Studios would love to help. We deliver targeted and interactive training workshops that are designed to help build the 3 fundamental skills of any new manager: building trust, giving feedback, and setting goals. Reach out to me through matt@bettereverydaystudios.com so we can start making your organization better every day.